Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to the weekend. It is the Earthmaster here. Saturday, got a nice hot weekend upon us here in California. Saturday, July 6th, 2024, about 11:32 a.m. California time. Taking a look at the earthquake 3D globe here, shows a 1.8 earthquake on the big island of Hawaii, the latest quake there on the globe. We'll get to the rest of this earthquake activity here in just a minute. I want to cover first Tropical Storm Beryl. Looking a little choppy out here after running through the Yucatan, Mexico area. But it is over open, warm Gulf moisture waters out here. And it does have the potential here. Look at the area of circulation starting to redevelop out here within this core. And that does have a potential to be a decent-sized hurricane as it makes its way up towards the Texas Gulf Coast area. Now, a couple of these weather models here showing a very powerful hurricane to impact the area. Right around the certain models are showing the lake between Corpus Christi and the Lake Jackson area. This is the HWRF model on Beryl, showing a decent landfall. Although this one right here looks like it is a little bit more positioned around the Corpus Christi area. There's many different models we can look at. This is the ECMWF, the European model here, showing landfall, or at least the eye wall right here in between Corpus Christi and Lake Jackson area. And again, most of these weather models are forecasting this thing to rapidly strengthen before making landfall here. Again, it gets caught up a little bit, heads north, and it looks like in between Lake Jackson and Corpus Christi area will be the area of specific landfall out here as far as the eye wall goes. Little uncertainty though, because we've got different weather models showing many different things out here. The GFS model, though, today compared to last night is more consistent with the ECMWF model. The GFS last night showed it a little bit further south here. This looks to be roughly about the same position here as far as landfall location, right around the Corpus Christi area to Lake Jackson. So, HRR model, that's the more... let's see, where's our HRR? Let's make sure this is going to work right. Looks like there's a little bug in there. Let me refresh this. Everything's good. All right. So let's go into the HRR model, which we do have right there. The triple R, that is going to show a whole lot of nothing, I guess. Not for sure what's going on with that map, but it's yeah, not looking good. Maybe it doesn't like the I don't know, that's weird. I'm going to close out that window because I'm getting a little scared with that issue going on there. It's not me. The internet looks fine here on my end. I'm streaming just fine and recording just fine. So let's check out some of the official models here real quick, and then we'll go back and see if it's working properly or not. The forecasted map here. Let me bring up... I want to bring up this one right here so we can see the forecast line. This is the track line, but there's that cone of uncertainty out here in the wider colors here from that dark line here. There is hurricane watches in effect up here across the central area of the Texas coast. It looks like all the way from Galveston area all the way down south here to the Mexico-Texas border area. Hurricane watch in effect. Tropical storm warning in effect down here across portions of southern Texas as well. Again, we're going to watch this throughout the day today and see what happens, because we got all day today, all day tomorrow before a potential landfall there early Monday morning around 7 a.m. or so. Again, right around the Corpus Christi area and in between there and the Lake Jackson region of Texas as a hurricane. Right now, sustained winds are about 60 miles per hour. As we've seen on the satellite loop here, it's looking a little choppy. But there's nothing right now in the way that's going to prevent this thing from redeveloping and re-strengthening back into a hurricane status here. We're starting to notice a little bit of loop here, indicating maybe a reformation of the area of circulation. I mean, possibly we could see an eye with this before it makes landfall there along the Texas coast. That's just, this here is the actual satellite imagery here, infrared showing the extreme high tops there of those clouds. Now, let's go over here to the hurricane HWRF model on this. This will track the hurricane itself as it heads towards the Texas coast right here. There's the landfall. There's the Texas coastline. And this model, pretty consistent with a Corpus Christi hit right around there, maybe just a little bit north. But notice the eye wall here and the area of circulation and pressure really drops just before it hits up on the land here on the Texas coast. That could be a decent-sized hurricane. Let's see what these guys are forecasting in terms of the strength of this hurricane. The spaghetti models, we'll check that out here in a second. But yeah, most of these here well, actually it's trending a little bit here, more up in towards the upper category 1, maybe even up into the category 2. These are knots here. But yeah, they've been trending a little bit further up north, so at least a category 1. The majority of the models are increasing that possibility of seeing that hurricane strengthen, or the tropical storm right now, Beryl, back into a hurricane before hitting land and then dropping obviously substantially back into the tropical storm and then dissipating as it moves further inland. Most of the weather forecast models here trending together right around the Corpus Christi area, maybe just north of there. So it'd be interesting to watch here, see what the exact location is of this landfall from this soon-to-be hurricane once again. There is some potential surge out here, storm surge, up to 5 feet here across the majority of the coast, 3 to 5 feet. About High Island, got Galveston Bay right here, Corpus Christi Bay, 3 to 5 feet. So decent amount of storm surge out there. Water levels along the immediate coast could reach the following heights above ground level within the indicated area. So yeah, definitely not good. Also the concern for some flash flooding going on around this area north of Corpus Christi. A lot of flooding potential out here. It looks like at least 40% chance, moderate risk here of some flash flooding from all this rainfall coming in. Storm surge right now. I get that. Let's see here. We do have a storm surge watch right now, meaning that conditions are favorable but not occurring yet. So again, we got to watch what takes place here today and tomorrow before things either really ramp up with this system, or they could potentially just, I don't see it, but they could potentially just maybe stay at a tropical storm level, but I don't think so. It's over warm Gulf waters, and it's got nothing in its way to prevent it from gaining some momentum and steam. So got potentially risk of damaging hurricane force winds and life-threatening storm surge along portions of the lower and middle Texas coast late Sunday into Monday. So just a heads up. Also, rip currents out there will cause life-threatening beach conditions through the weekend across much of the Gulf Coast. Crazy. So we'll continue to watch this as it churns out there, spins in the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll definitely get a better look at what it wants to do here in the coming days. Let me check out the HRR again. Let's see if it's going to let me. Some reason it doesn't like that model. I don't know why, but at least it's working slightly. So the HRR model is supposed to be the more accurate model when it comes to wind, precipitation, snowfall, stuff like that, thunderstorms. And this one's in fairly good agreement with the others that it's going to be right around the Corpus Christi area, just north for the HRR model. And then also looks like moving up north here a little bit. But anywhere, I think Corpus Christi, Lake Jackson area, that's going to be our potential landfall region. And that's going to be a dandy. I already see a whole bunch of storm chasers heading down there. I wouldn't mind going down there and sitting this one out. It's not a huge hurricane. In fact, these guys have hurricane parties down here. Last time I was out here a couple years ago covering a hurricane more over towards the Galveston area. I think it was back over here. And yeah, people just sitting out on the beach and coolers full of drinks and waiting for the hurricane to come on shore. You know, that can be dangerous, obviously, with the storm surge and whatnot. But it was interesting. These people, I guess they get used to it, you know. It's a lot of people head inland, which is probably a smart idea as well, get away from that storm surge. But there's those people that love to sit out there and watch it come in. I would love to one of these days. Of course, in a safe location, that is. All right, so we got that to deal with. We'll be covering that throughout the next couple days before it makes landfall there. Earthquake activity. See what we got. On the earthquake 3D globe, there's a 2.3 in Canada. Let me see here. Yeah, that's just to the east here where our recent activity has been occurring there in the Juan de Fuca Ridge, Cascadia subduction zone. I'm not seeing anything showing up here on the earthquake map as far as any new activity goes. So it's gone quiet here for a little bit, but we did see a little bit of movement inland. So there is strain out here. And, you know, obviously those earthquakes that popped up over here off to the left, let me bring this up here, over here around the Juan de Fuca Ridge, did add further strain out here against the northern end of the Cascadia, because we've seen tremor uptick here within this region immediately following all this activity. And then an increase in earthquake activity across the Cascades and at various volcanoes there, including Mount Rainier. So definitely some strain, some increase in pressure out here against the Pacific Northwest. But right now, nothing showing up here in terms of any further earthquake activity for now. Down in Northern California, extreme southern end of the Cascadia, 1.5. That earthquake from yesterday, that is associated with the Cascadia subduction zone, 16 kilometers deep upstream from where the tremor occurs, which is more underneath this area. So you're getting up there close to the locked area, the strained area where, you know, there's enough steam building up out here with a full rupture of a 9-pointer or greater, 8.3 or 8.4 for this southern region, and then I think it was 8.3 to 8.4 up here across the northern area, depending on which segment breaks out here. But a full rupture, obviously a 9.0 or greater across the Cascadia subduction zone, and it's been over, you know, 324 years since the last big one. Northern California, mostly smaller microquake activity out there. The Bay Area of California looks pretty quiet. Got one earthquake outside of San Jose, right off the Calaveras fault zone. And just a little bit of minor activity up and down the creeping segment of the San Andreas Fault. Really nothing major going on out here in Southern California for now. 2.5 map and above. Well, there you have it. Pretty quiet. One earthquake down south of the border from yesterday. That was just a 2.6. 1.2 Loma Linda area. A little 1.4 in the Salton Sea area last night. No major swarming. I do notice, though, a little bit of increasing activity here across the southern end of the plate boundary. It started off with this area last night. Looks like we did see a little bit more along the Imperial Fault. And, of course, all that, what plays out here, could have an effect negatively on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault here. So I like to keep an eye on this region. There's been a slight uptick here overnight and this morning, but really nothing major. No huge swarm going on. Across the rest of the, well, let's see what we got. Yellowstone here. I think those are from yesterday. A couple smaller earthquakes. Let me go to the Yellowstone overview here, see what we have. Most recent data. There's definitely a handful of earthquakes here across Yellowstone last night. Looks like all these are earthquakes here in the well-defined spikes. Those are localized quakes. Probably a good 10 or more. Not big ones, but they are popping up here, it looks like, across Yellowstone National Park. Did show up here at Holmes Hill, Purple Mountain, West Boundary as well, but the epicenter looks to be around the Maple Creek area. Again, about 10 earthquakes or so of very small magnitudes. Nothing showing up here from the USGS map. I don't believe it's these. These are from yesterday afternoon. So we'll have to wait until Monday for them to add these quakes onto the list. For the most part, anything below 2.5 will not show up here on the map, even if they happen out here. Say we got 100. Well, I don't know. They've been known to not report stuff out here and then get to it Monday morning. And then there's been times where maybe there's a geologist or seismologist is on standby covering earthquake activity, and then they add it to the earthquake catalog book, which is the USGS map here that we're looking at. So it just all depends. But there's about 10 earthquakes up here. I have a feeling they'll get to them Monday morning because it's really not that big of a deal. Texas area, out in the oil field, still getting hit. New Madrid seismic zone, one earthquake around the Boston Mountains area, eastern side, close to the New Madrid zone from this morning on 1.8. Nothing major going on across the eastern portion of the country. Little calmness going on here. Out in the middle of the Pacific, what do we got going on at Hawaii? Still seeing some earthquake activity up here across the upper east rift zone. We got to be getting close here to something going on, right? So let's look at the deformation data here at Kilauea Volcano. Still going up. Here's that adjustment that they made here a couple days ago. I think it maybe adds some type of leveling feature on it. So instead of all this choppiness, it's more smooth, I guess a little bit smoother in terms of the raw data coming in. See that? You used to see these little patterns where it come up and down, and it's odd how it does that every single day. You know, it could never know. It could have something to do with the position of the Earth and the Sun location, or the the Sun being over view. It could go up when the Sun's up, or at least overhead, and then go back down a little bit as night falls. I don't know, but either way, it looks like they've added a little bit of smoothing feature on the data now. But either way, we're still going up. Still going up in terms of the inflation here. Earthquake activity has been minor. Nothing big, no major events going on, no huge swarm, but we're still watching this area here around the upper east rift zone. Tilt meter around this location here has been up since that elevated earthquake event here back in late June, but we really haven't seen anything further. I think there was a little displacement there from the summit off to this area, and that's where we're at right now in terms of watching where it goes in terms of the magma movement. Whether we're going to see further pressurization here across the upper east rift zone with eventually leading to eruptive fissures up here at the surface, or maybe a further magma displacement somewhere off out and about. Just never know. Look at the crater area of Kilauea Volcano. Looks pretty quiet up there. There's always going to be, volcanic gases and some condensation there seeping up through the tiniest of the cracks, but aside from that, nothing elevated out there across the Kilauea Volcano aside from the inflation. All right, the rest of the model out here, rest of the map. Goodness, look at that deep earthquake underneath North Island, 156 kilometers for a 4.2 underneath the Lake Taupo area. That's a super volcano out there. Been seeing a lot of deeper activity underneath the North Island here recently, and some minor adjustment going on across the surface levels there, but I don't know. I think something's brewing out there for sure. Handful of deeper quakes up north along the Kermadec Trench from last night. The Taiwan, that's Philippines. Let's see what we got up here. 5.5 early this morning. Nothing really major going on across the Taiwan area. Japan seeing a handful of smaller quakes up here as well. Got the typical clustering going on here across the Philippines southward, as noted on any given day out here, including a 4.2. Mediterranean area, looks like we had a 4.9 over here. Let's see what we got going on outside of the Greece area. Coming in this morning so far, it looks like a 3.6 kilometers deep for 4.9. A handful of some smaller quake activity in the area as well. That is just off of the plate boundary. Aside from that, the Atlantic Ocean looks pretty quiet out there. Now, where's that 3.9 at? Was the USGS not showing that 3.9? Okay, it looks like that was up way up in Nevada up here. 3.8 from the USGS up here around the couple different unnamed fracture zones there in Nevada. 3.8 and a 2.5, along with some other smaller quake activity out there. I think this region has been seeing a little bit of movement. No, not so much over the last week. That's more down south along this area. If I remember right, that 6-pointer a couple years ago was right around the Candelaria Hills. That's going to be this area. I was out here a couple years ago and following that earthquake to see if I could see any surface ruptures, but they had sealed them up there across the road, across this highway before I got there. But that movement is today's activity is a little bit northwest of that 6-pointer that struck here a couple years ago. About 5 kilometers deep. Either way, Nevada's a very active state in terms of the strain that's associated out here with the Pacific and the North American plate boundary. A lot of faults and fractures out there across that state. All right, let's check out space weather activity. I know it's a little bit on the quiet side here for now. Looking at a little bit of sea flare activity kicking up here. Current X-ray at C 2.2. We do have a growing sunspot here within this location right about here. Looks like it's remaining somewhat complex as it ventures further into the Earth-directed view. But behind this area, we got a couple different active regions. And how do I know? Well, if we look at the far side watch out here, we can get a pretty good visual of where they're at. This one's about a day behind, so it's got to be getting close here to being cresting the eastern limb out here. Very close. May even get a little visual of that tonight. But this is going to be that area, the darker area indicating a region, a sunspot region. Now, how complex, we don't know how complex it is. Look at that. Looks like a scary face out here. But it's a good size region. Last time these sunspots were over here on the Earth-facing side. This is a western limb. We had a number of growing sunspots, and they were getting fairly complex, starting to throw off some decent flares. Now they're coming back around the bend here, the eastern limb. This is our current active region there that I just mentioned a couple minutes ago to keep an eye on. This should be coming up behind it tonight. We'll get a better perspective of it when we bring up the map here. We should be able to see it maybe tonight. I don't know. But it's just over there on the eastern limb. The UV filter. Let's see if we can see anything here. Maybe there's a little bit of magnetic arching going on there. Again, it's a little ways out there, but we'll get a little bit better perspective here soon. All right, 5% chance for X flare, M flare 40, C flare around 99% chance or so. We'll keep an eye on that sunspot 3738 as it continues to evolve. That's about the only major sunspot. It's not even a major sunspot. The only sunspot that I can see that's going to produce anything in terms of further flaring potential. Really not a whole lot of auroras in the forecast here, folks. Storm Prediction Center out here, far as any major severe weather goes. Current day 1 outlook shows a slight risk here across Nebraska and Kansas. Got a 2% up there in Nebraska for tornado potential. Wind and some hail threat out there as well for today's forecast there across this area. As far as asteroids, I keep forgetting about these, but it's probably a good idea to keep checking on them. The closest one looks like that is going to come by today at 424,000 miles. A 53-foot house-size asteroid here. That's for today. Here in a couple days on the 8th, a little bit larger one, safely passing us at 937,000 miles. Really nothing of any major concern. Nothing close. That one a couple months back here came within about 11,000, maybe about 14,000 miles from us. It wasn't a big one, but it was a super close approach. And these are very safe. If we get anywhere near what we had seen a couple months ago in terms of asteroid approaches, then I'll cover it in more detail with the orbital viewer out here. But these are all safely passing us for now. What do we got here? I think that's about it, folks. Again, watching hurricane or tropical storm Beryl down there as it reorganizes and re-strengthens for a Texas landfall there right around the Corpus Christi area. Going to be next, these next couple days here are going to be very important. Watching it, seeing how strong it can kick back up before hitting the land. There's not a whole lot preventing it from doing so. So we should see this thing rapidly develop here, probably by tonight's update. Seismograph stations out there, pretty quiet across the globe for now. As you can see, not a whole lot of earthquake activity. No spikiness going on out there across the current seismos. Have a good day. It's going to be 117 degrees again today here in California. Up in Redding, we're supposed to have 120. So that's going to beat the all-time record, which I believe is 118 degrees. 120 degrees up here at the northern end of the Sacramento Valley. And then we're supposed to cool down around 110, 113. Wow, it's a hot one. PG&E bill is going to be it's going to be out the roof. We already pay some super high electricity bills out here in California, so I can only imagine next month's PG&E bill. I'm not looking forward to it. But I got to stay cool, right? Got to keep the family cool. Got to keep equipment cool. Got to do what you got to do. Have a good day. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on for the Saturday night update. Take care, folks. Stay safe out there.